I gave a couple of examples of like sort of obviously hyped watches, but maybe we should discuss some that aren't. And I was thinking the easiest examples I could think of were both of the watches that we discussed at the start.
Hmm.
I would say both of those are watches where what we think the watch is worth is probably very close to what the market says those watches are worth. And therefore, because that gap is either non existent or very, very small, relatively speaking, it's not a hype watch. And I would say most watches, if we then think about it naturally, are not going to be hype watches because there's not that many that can hold our attention at any given time. But it is interesting, and maybe we can get into this a little bit as well in a little bit, is why the only ones that do seem to get hyped are the ones from the same two or three usual suspects.
Right. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, there's so many SKUs out there. Like any brand, Omega or Rolex particularly, has like they have like hundreds of SKUs. Omega is probably even more, higher number than Rolex. But yeah, like the vast majority of watches, I would say, are not hyped. And personally, I would think that for the watch that I talked about, the Reverso, I think that's an underrated watch. Like, what's the opposite of hyped? It's not. I think it's underrated. It's not, fairly priced. It's actually priced for less than what I think the intrinsic value is. For $9,000 for a dual face Reverso with that special configuration, I think it's a very compelling value. Actually, I think I would probably pay $12,000 for that watch.
How did you come up with 12,000?
I just look at like what else is out there for the money, and I think that these days like there's a lot of stuff that the market values at $9,000 that I think is not nearly as compelling for me
Mm-hmm.
personally as the Reverso in terms of its heritage, in terms of its quality, the quality of the craftsmanship and the movement design. I mean, to stick two dials with the movement in the middle in 9 millimeters is just pretty ridiculous to me. And I've just always felt that the Reverso overall, was undervalued, right? Like, I think for $9,000, that's probably like the price of the Omega Seamaster, like No Time to Die, like titanium or something like that, right? I mean, to me, I would much, much, much rather have that Reverso. I think the Reverso is a much more special watch. Yeah, and so it's just the culmination of all those factors. Um, I guess both in terms of like intrinsically for the watch itself, and then also for my perception of the Reverso and of the quality of JLC as a whole. I just think it's very underrated, and the fact that it's a dress watch. The Reverso is considered to be a dress watch these days, and there's naturally going to be less demand for dress watches.
Right. So let's maybe then come back to this question I touched on just briefly, which is why are all of the hyped watches from the same two or three usual suspects?
Right, and we have some data on this too. I'll just share this because we did a little bit of this research a couple weeks ago, but I don't think this is the exact number off the top of my head, but it's something like the top 100 SKUs account for 50% of the market by transaction value. And for reference, we mostly track modern watches, and across 100 brands, we have over 40,000 SKUs in our catalog, about half of which we have secondary market data for. So even if you look at the 20,000 that are traded on the secondary market, 100 is the top 0.5%, right? And that's half the market by transaction value. So yeah, it is incredibly top heavy. And so why is it so top heavy? My simple answer is, first of all, there's a lot of like variations of the same watch that are out there, and then people just generally, I think, overlook it or don't find it very interesting. And then it's just the proliferation of like social media and watch media and all this stuff where everyone is just talking about the same thing and that's all you see. And it's just a self-reinforcing thing where people think, oh, this must be all that's out there. This must be the good stuff because that's all that's ever talked about.
It's a very unfortunate and vicious cycle.
Yeah, I think so. But, For me personally, I've seen it as sort of an opportunity to go and acquire other more interesting pieces that are underrated, like this Reverso, which now that I've seen it sold, I'm a little bit regretting maybe not buying it, because on the forums over the years, there's only been like 3 listings ever that we've found in like 5 years. So I don't know when I'm going to see it again. But yeah, I think if you can do the research on your own and find out those pieces that you like. I mean, certainly I feel like there has to be something out there for everyone that's not a hyped piece, right? You can't it certainly cannot be the case where the only stuff you like is the hype stuff. Like, you can, if you do the research, if you look around, you can definitely find something that you love that is underrated or flies under the radar.